DUI is extremely common. It's one of the most common cases that any criminal defense firm, including ours, deals with. And that's because many people have licenses, many people drink alcohol, and many people unfortunately drive on the roads. The types of people that get DUIs varies so much. It can be anyone from a young kid. We recently handled an 18-year-old kid who had a DUI charge, all the way through a grandfather who's 7 years old. By the same token, it varies from all walks of life, whether it be very well off or on the poorer side. Almost anyone could end up with a DUI charge, and it's not any particular type of person, male or female, race or anything like that. Almost anyone can have a DUI charge. Many people think when they get arrested for a DUI charge, they're going to be convicted automatically. And that's just so far from the truth. Each case is going to vary on its facts, what the officer put into that report, how well you did on the field sobriety test, as well as how well you did on other things. So the officer, when they're approaching you, they're looking at all the things you did. And in the report, they're going to write a lot of the things you did wrong. Our job is to flip that around, and instead of talking about the things you might have done wrong when the officer stopped you in your interactions, we're going to talk about the things you did right. And oftentimes with that, we're able to find the right strategy to win the case for you. You can drink too much alcohol and never even realize it. There's a TV commercial that says, buzz driving is drunk driving. Many people drink, and they drink often. They're not even sure they're over the limit when they actually are. People's tolerances are different, and their blood alcohol level may be over the particular limit without even knowing it. The types of defenses that are available for DUI, including attacking the observations of the officer is always going to want to put you in the worst light, talk about the things you did wrong during the stop. Our job is to point out all the things you did correctly during the stop. The officer is going to focus a lot on the field sobriety test. We're going to talk about the other things, the little things you were doing leading up to them. Were you following instructions? Were you able to find things? Were you fidgeting? Were you fumbling things? Were you able to get out of the car on your own power, or did you need help? Were you not stumbling? Were you able to walk to the back of the car without any assistance? These are some of the positive things we would bring out. On top of that, we're also going to attack whether or not the officer conducted the field sobriety test or other things in the investigation properly. We have their manual, we have their playbook, we know exactly what they're supposed to do, and most of them don't usually do it the right way. In addition, oftentimes in cases where the person's taken the breathalyzer test, there have been a lot of problems in Massachusetts with the breathalyzer test, and that's ripe ground for us to challenge the results of the breathalyzer test with the way the machine was calibrated, whether or not the machine had any errors in the past, whether the machine failed calibration in the past, and quite frankly, whether or not the lab that does the calibrations was following all the rules that they have to follow in order to make sure that machine is functioning properly. Relative to blood testing, if you did happen to take give a blood test during the OUI, we can look at that. Was the blood collected properly? Was it analyzed properly? What's the chain of custody? Did they get it to the lab within a certain amount of time? Was it stored properly? There's all these different things we can look at in a DUI case to try and show that you weren't in fact driving under the influence of alcohol. Many people we deal with rely on their license to go to work, and oftentimes in a DUI case, the most important thing to them is maintaining and keeping their license. And many times in a DUI case, they've maybe refused the breathalyzer test, and that license was taken from them for a period of time, even before they were found guilty on something called the implied consent law. Getting the license back is many times the biggest goal for the person. Unfortunately, without winning the case at trial, the earliest they're going to get the license back is if they serve out the entire suspension period or if they take a plea. There's only one type of plea that would allow them to get their license back right away, and that's called the First Offenders Program, we refer to as 24D. If they were to take that particular type of plea, if they need their license back, they go to court, they essentially plead out and take this program. It's a alcohol education program as part of a probationary period. Once they enter that program, they can seek to have a license for what they call it for work purposes or other emergency purposes. Some people refer to it as a Cinderella license, but absent that, there's not a lot of other ways to get your license back in a DUI case if it's been taken for refusal of the breathalyzer test prior to winning the case at trial. Certain DUI cases do require more than just us as the lawyers. Over the years, we have developed a team of experts from accident reconstructionists to toxicologists and other doctors to help us with certain cases. Not every case requires an expert, but it's good knowing I have a great team of people behind me if we do need one. A lot of people ask me what's going to happen to me if I get convicted of DUI. And that really depends on a lot of different factors, including which number DUI it is. If it's a first offense, most likely you're not going to go to jail even if you were convicted of the case. You're most likely going to have some type of probation programs and a lot of fees and fines. It gets a lot worse as you get into second and third offenses where there'll be mandatory jail time on those cases. I've been a criminal defense attorney since 1998. One of the first cases I've ever worked on was a DUI case. I've been working on them as a regular part of our practice since that time. We have a lot of experience. We've handled all different types of DUI cases, from the simple first offense, no breathalyzer test, all the way through motor vehicle homicide cases involving DUI, using experts from toxicologists, accident reconstruction. We've cross-examined experts at the state level, so the people who calibrate the machines, we've had a lot of experience showing that they don't do their job so well. The state police and their accident reconstruction unit, we've worked against them many times and oftentimes successfully. Client communication is key. It's one of the most important aspects of our job. We try and return phone calls, emails, or texts within the same day, hopefully within the same hour. If I'm not available, I have a staff that works with us who's able to jump right on the communication to at least let the client know that we're looking at it and have not forgotten about them. I think what makes our law firm different from other firms is my background. I come from a blue-collar background dealing with everyday, normal people. I like to help those types of people get through these issues that maybe they haven't dealt with before. Most of our clients haven't worked with a lawyer before, and I want to make their experience very comfortable. Our firm is a smaller firm, and the advantage of having a small firm working on your case is that you're always going to get to know your lawyer on a very personal basis. You're never going to be handed off to staff or a lawyer you don't know. We get to know our clients and almost like they're our friends and get very close to them so that they understand that they always know who's working on their case, and they have a direct line of communication to the person who's working directly on their case. Most of the time I am handling the cases personally. If I was the lawyer you were introduced with during the initial intake, I do have associates who do work on cases, but if I'm the one who's told you I'm going to be working on your case and I did the intake with you, I will stick with the case throughout it. For initial consultation for DUI, we're almost always going to want to have the police officer's report. It's the best evidence that the police are going to have against you. It tells the case from the perspective of the officer, and usually the Commonwealth's case never gets any better than that. So with that report, we're able to go through it with you line by line, figure out what's the best strategy for your case, look at the things you did wrong, look at the things you did right, in order to try and find the best way to get to the goal you're looking for in the case. We always start with trying to find a way to win the case, and only if we can't win the case do we look for some other option, but we always want to get you the best outcome.